We made it! Happy New Year!
What do you remember about the year 2013?
2013!
Maybe not much. Maybe it wasn't your year. Or maybe like me, it was one of your best years. Maybe you weren't even born yet, in which case, why are you watching this video? 2013 was an interesting time in what ended up being a very tumultuous decade. For Gravity Falls fans, it was another exciting period of time. The show had just returned from its first hiatus on February 15th of that year, with the episode Boss Mabel. Little did anyone know then that this would also be the same date that the show would end, 3 years later. Things would only get even better from there when on March 13th, Alex Hirsch tweeted out that Gravity Falls had been renewed for a second season. With 6 episodes left to go for the first season, fans settled down, knowing that we would have more of the show to look forward to in the future. But it's what Alex Hirsch tweeted the next day that I'm here to talk about. It marked the start of a long-forgotten event from Gravity Falls' early days. An event that foreshadowed what was to come, and even influenced a lot about what Season 2 would look like. This is the story of Mystery Tour 2013. Mystery Tour 2013. My 4-day crew road trip to find the weirdest tourist traps in Oregon officially starts now. As Alex's tweet states, Mystery Tour was a 4-day-long road trip that him and members of the Gravity Falls production team took in between work on Season 1 and 2. The trip had a few goals. First was to find the weirdest tourist traps in the Pacific Northwest, specifically Oregon and Northern California. Having made a show set in that region, Alex and the team decided to get a taste of what it really was like. On top of that, they used the trip as a means to come up with some ideas for Season 2. Also, in the box set commentaries, Alex revealed another reason why they went on the road trip.
Alright, roadside attraction. This episode, the main impetus from this episode came from the fact that between Season 1 and Season 2, myself and a number of the team members of Gravity Falls, we had a little bit of time, and particularly our art director, he was expecting a child, and he was like, I'm never going to be able to go on another road trip for the rest of my life. So how about we try to create a Gravity Falls road trip? Who here was on that road trip?
I was there.
You were there?
I think I'm the only person.
I was not.
I talked to you on the phone.
The first time I ever spoke to Shion, but you weren't actually there. I called you.
Yep.
Yeah. From Pixar. I was trying to convince Shion to leave Pixar and come to Gravity Falls.
It worked.
It worked.
So we went on this road trip, and we just decided, let's hit every single tourist trap.
There was one other reason too, but we'll get back to that later. During the trip, Alex and the team visited many places like the House of Mystery at the Oregon Vortex, a Masonic temple, the Trees of Mysteries Paul Bunyan statue which is located along Route 101, the world-famous Grandfather Tree, One Log House, and of course, Confusion Hill, among many other places.
This right here is Confusion Hill in Northern California.
Yeah.
This is one of the very first images that we ever made to base the Mystery Shack on. As we looked at photos of this, we ended up visiting this in between Season 1 and 2 as inspiration.
If those locations look or sound familiar, that's no error. A lot of them ended up making it into the show as locations, inspiration for episodes, plots, and more. In fact, Roadside Attraction, arguably Gravity Falls' most controversial episode, is inspired entirely by this trip and thus was used as a means to give the crew a breather episode in between the insanity that is the final half of Gravity Falls Season 2. It paid homage to the state of Oregon and its beautiful tourist traps. Even if you don't like the episode, think it's the worst of the show, you have to admit it. It was a visually stunning one, and one of the best in that category. the one and only episode that we get to see beyond just the town of Gravity Falls, and see the wider, beautiful state of Oregon. The trip, as you can tell from Alex, was pretty insane. Now, I did mention that there was another thing that happened on this trip, and that is what we're going to shift into. Heading up to 5 Highway. Anyone clever enough to find the hidden pyramids we're leaving behind? First person to find one of these guys in real life and photograph themselves with it gets a mystery prize. Along the route, Alex and his crew hid 10 drawings of Bill Cipher on various items. Now, as eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed, Alex did not refer to him as Bill. The reason is simple. This was early 2013, the pre-Dreamscapers era. This road trip occurred before even The Deep End had aired, let alone the Bill Cipher episodes that introduced him to the show. Bill was still considered a spoiler, but as he appeared in the background of various episodes and of course, the theme song, his existence was already known. And fans were still debating who he was. Was he something big and important, and was he going to be part of the show later on? Or as some believed, nothing more than aesthetic to make the show look creepier than it is. Because Bill had not yet been named, he was referred to as the Pyramid Guy, or Mr. Pyramid back then. On each day of the trip, Alex would tweet out another image and encourage fans to go find them. Some were located on bins, signposts, you name it. And as mentioned above, there was reasoning to do so. Alex promised whoever would be first to find and take a picture of themselves next to the drawings would get their own mystery prize from him. With 10 bills in total and thus 10 opportunities for fans to win a mystery prize, you may think that's a lot. But then you gotta remember, again, this is back in 2013, and Gravity Falls was still growing at the time. And so Alex still didn't have as many followers on Twitter as he does now. I mean, all his mystery tour tweets have well under 500 likes, with some of them not even breaking 100. That's a far cry from now, where anything he tweets basically goes viral. So for him, this is a lot more manageable of a thing to do back then. I mean, imagine what would happen if Alex pulled this off today. Would be a mess. However, despite that fact, and Alex saying later on that he thought it would take a long time for the bills to be found given they were driving around in basically the middle of nowhere, as is with the GF fandom, it didn't take too long for the bills to begin to be found.
And so we had such a wonderful time on this road trip, and Ian in particular had collected so much visual reference for what...
Rub it in, guys.
We would have loved to have you there. We didn't know you yet. We also were doing this thing where we left a little Bill Cipher everywhere we went, and we encouraged fans to, like, see if you could find the Bill Ciphers, thinking like we're in the middle of nowhere. We're in like Weed, California, next to some like just like abandoned like road stop or whatever, and like people always found our bills to the point where it got a little frightening. Like the show's getting a little bigger than we realized at that point. Like we sensed the fandom.
The first bill, located on an oil drum turned garbage bin, was found basically the next day on March 15th by Eagle Boy Studios. Now, given how long it's been, their tweet is long gone. A foreshadow for a lot of these given how long it's been, but the good old Gravity Falls wiki page has it all archived. Eagle Boy Studios would receive a mystery prize not too long after on the same day. Drawn by storyboard director and future creator of Amphibia, Matt Braley, it was a drawing of him in the Gravity Falls style, with Dipper and Mabel in front of the Mystery Shack. The second bill, drawn on another garbage can and tweeted by Alex on March 14th as well, was found by Kim Allen on, again, the same day the first one was found. She got her mystery prize a day later, which was a phone call from Alex Hirsch and the voice of Dipper, Jason Ritter. Now, here's where the mystery deepens. Bill drawing number 3 was posted by Alex on the night of March 14th, but it wasn't found the next day. In fact, it was one of the 5 bills that were not found during the duration of the trip, alongside number 6, 7, 8, and 9. In fact, bill number 3 would not be found for years, and when it was, he was no longer there. See, in 2016, the third bill was discovered by Twitter user WTF Anon Pencil and the Party Lincoln. I spoke with Anon Pencil, and they told me that they were able to find it based on the fact that in the background of the original picture Alex took, you can see Mount Shasta. That put its location within Northern California, down a route that they were pretty familiar with. In terms of the mystery prize, Anon Pencil told me that they were not entirely certain if they got one. They mentioned they had gotten possibly a comment congratulating them about finding it. Though, given 3 years had passed, they assumed someone else may have found the bill but never ended up posting the pics. Or, they have just been lost to time as well as the information about if they got the prize. As you can see in the image that was taken 3 years on, Bill no longer was there. The area, according to Dishonest Abe, had been renovated and painted over, though a bit of Bill could still be seen. Pretty cool that even 3 years on, he was found. Now, moving on to Bill number 4, and the first one tweeted on day 2 of the trip. It was located on the side of a green utility box near a gas station in Redding, California. My guess is that Alex drew it while the crew was filling up the van at the station. It was found by Twitter user AmpreHope on March 15th, who also posted on Tumblr, stating that they lived a mere 5 minutes away from that specific gas station that Alex and the crew had been to. Though Alex did say they would receive a mystery prize for it, it is unknown if they ever did, as I could not find any records of one being given. Okay, so this is a recording I'm making afterwards, now when I'm editing the video. Basically what I discovered is that the person who found the fourth bill, they go by Raim now on Twitter, and they made their account was previously privated, but now it's public again, so I can see what they tweeted, and basically they tweeted out saying that someone favorited this years later and they still don't know if they got a prize, and this was made in 2016, this tweet, so it's safe to assume that they still haven't yet gotten a prize and never did. I also found some other tweets by them more recently where they're talking about how they're probably thinking about asking Alex about if they can get the prize still 8 years later, so you know it's now 2021 and they still haven't gotten the prize, so yeah, there's that. So to basically answer the question, no, they didn't receive their mystery prize for this. Moving on again, bill number 5 was drawn on the back of a sign, and in the photo taken, you can even make out the motorhome that the crew all lived in for the 4 days. Side note, I wouldn't be surprised if the RV used by Stan in Roadside Attraction was based off that specific RV, given that episode's deep connection to this trip. Anyways, bill number 5, like the first 2 bills, was found on the very same day by Joey M. Souza, just under 2 hours after Alex tweeted it. Just goes to show that even in the early days, the Gravity Falls fandom was very fast at cracking mysteries. Now, in terms of the mystery prize, this one took a bit longer and I assume Alex probably forgot about it. But, on April 8th, Joey reminded Alex about it, to which he asked what he would wish him to draw as his prize. In what has to be the weirdest prize and in turn, one of the weirdest drawings Alex has ever probably been asked to draw, Joey requested a drawing of him and Alex riding on a Mershack back together, holding hands being an optional add-in. And of course, Alex, being a man of his word, fulfilled Joey's request, conceding the round to him. And like the Chad he is, he drew them holding hands too.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out.
Now, moving on, I'm going to do bill drawings number 6 and 7 together, as they were both found around the same time, by the same people. Bill number 6 was drawn on a pole nearby a Masonic lodge on March 15th. It's also the only bill that Alex drew using 2 different colors. The 7th bill, meanwhile, was drawn on March 16th, the 3rd day of the trip. It was drawn in arguably the most photogenic area of the 10 bills, on a wooden viewing platform looking down on the SkyTrail aerial tramway as the tree is a mystery tourist attraction. Side note, if this all looks familiar, it's because this whole place was the inspiration for the Mystery Mountain and Trambiance ride in the climax act of Roadside Attraction.
Welcome to Trambiance, the world's slowest treetop tram ride. Enjoy the sights at 0.1 miles per hour.
You see, it's not all that bad an episode. Take that r/Gravity Falls. Anyways, as mentioned above, bill number 6 and 7 were one of the 5 that were not found during the trip, which Alex mentioned at the end of the day. Perhaps he was surprised no one had found them on the same day, given the other ones had already been found as well on the same days. No, Bill 6 and 7 would remain elusive for many years to come, and like Bill number 3, they would both be found in 2016. I suspect 2016 was the year that all these bills were found, as the Bill Cipher statue at the end of the finale had made many fans go out and try and find it. And that in turn was how these two were found as people began remembering the mystery tour. Bill 6 and 7 were found by Steve Ross and the Deedster as part of their hunt for Bill Cipher during a trip that they took in 2016. I spoke to them both and they very kindly told me how they managed to find them. It was a group effort to both find the Bill Cipher statue from the finale, and also track down the yet-to-be-claimed Bill Cipher drawings. The trip occurred in March 2016, near the 3-year anniversary of the original mystery tour. Steve mentioned that he was able to find the 6th Bill by using the Masonic temple in the background of the photo. Tracking down temples founded in 1907, they were able to locate the very same building in Kirby, Oregon. The bill, though badly faded after years of weathering, was still there, on that same electrical pole adjacent to the temple. I also managed to locate the same pole and temple when looking for them on Google Maps. Side note, this whole place is just so photogenic. Bill number 7 was located by similar means, in that Steve was able to track down photos of the same SkyTrail tram online, placing it at the Trees of Mystery, and from there on, him and his team were soon able to locate it. The bill was badly faded and practically just an outline by now, but nonetheless, he was still there, where Alex Hirsch drew him 3 years ago at the time. I highly recommend checking out their blog, where they cataloged the whole trip, as it was one of their very first attempts made to find the Bill Cipher statue before Alex formally announced Cipher Hunt. In terms of the mystery prize, Deedsters told me that they didn't really get one, and that in the end it was more so the journey that was worth it more. That's also not too big of a surprise, I'd say, as this did occur in 2016, so chances are by this time Alex had probably forgotten about this, or maybe he didn't really care, I don't know. But either way, it's still amazing to know that those 2 bills were found. And a huge thank you to both of them for taking the time to hear me out and answer all the questions I had. I really appreciate it. Only 3 more to go. Bill number 8 was posted by Alex on March 17th, the final day of the trip. It was the only bill in which he had his famous cane, and was located on the side of a garbage can. It was also the 3rd bill to be drawn on one, in fact. Seriously, Alex, was Mystery Tour more a trip to find the best garbage bins in the Pacific Northwest than tourist traps? Anyways, Alex mentioned in his tweet that Bill was located somewhere along the 101, and in the image, little houses inside of tree stumps could be seen. As stated earlier, it was one of the 5 bills not found during the trip, and it wouldn't be found until nearly a month later. He was found on April 10th by user PianoPlayer1537. Again, like before, while Alex did say he would draw whatever they wanted as a mystery prize, it is uncertain if he ever did, as there are no further drawings or posts by Alex about them, nor can one ask PianoPlayer1537 themselves if they got one, as their profile is now long gone. Either way, bill number 8 would be the final bill to be found in 2013. Moving on to bill number 9, it was left by Alex on a small pole, again near a tourist trap. As the photo is pretty blurry, he added on below that the bill was located near one log house in Garberville, California. This bill was found in 2016, again, by WTF and On Pencil, who, as I mentioned earlier, also found bill number 3 while on the same trip. They told me that they found it based on the log house in the background. While the pic itself is pretty grainy, the location is well known, so finding it was a piece of cake. And, like bill 3, 6, and 7, given how long after it had been since they were found, no prize was given, as Anon Pencil told me. It also appears that bill number 9 was found at a good time, given, as of 2021, when looking at the area on Google Maps, I noticed that the poles on which bill was located on have since been repainted blue. So, that means that the bill drawing now most likely is gone forever. As both bill 3 and 9 were found in April of 2016, a month after bill 6 and 7 were, and because bill 8 was found in 2013, That means that all the bills Alex said were yet to be found at the end of his trip are now accounted for. But, as you may recall from what I said earlier, there were 10 bills. So, what happened to bill number 10? Bill cipher number 10 is the odd one out of the bills. As a 10 bill was not mentioned in Alex's original post-trip tweet, you may assume that someone already found it. But that's not the case. Bill number 10 was not found. Now, before you get all excited and start getting ready to go on an epic road trip down the Pacific Northwest and follow the route Alex took to find it, you have to understand, there's a reason no one ever found bill number 10. Because it can never be found. That's because bill number 10 was not a drawing. Number 10 will never be found, because it's in our stomachs. Yes, bill number 10 was a pizza in the shape of our favorite demonic nacho. And while some people jokingly suggested means to claim it, of course, at the end of the day, it never will be. And with that bill now accounted for, that is the fate of all 10 bills, and the end of this story. Mystery Tour concluded on the 17th of March, and the day after, Alex and his team got back to work on Season 2 of Gravity Falls. Alongside the bills that are now slowly fading away or long gone, Mystery Tour did leave its mark on the Pacific Northwest as much as it did on the show. While reading up on the posts left on the Bill Cipher Hunt blog by the team that found Bill 6 and 7, one of the things they mentioned were how they spoke to the cashier at Confusion Hill, who mentioned how he remembered the trip and showed off a pine tree hat that the crew had given them. They also learned from the folks at the Oregon Vortex about how the crew left a single Polaroid photo they took there behind. The GF Wiki lists the reasoning for the photo being left there as due to it not being of high quality, though I assume it was also left there as a way for the crew to leave behind their mark, given many tourist traps in that area have photo boards where people who've been there leave a photo they took behind. What's more, I reckon this trip did influence a lot of what ended up going down in Cipher Hunt. Locations visited by the crew perhaps inspired Alex and gave him places to hide clues for the real ARG 3 years later. It just goes to show how connected things in the show are, and when one takes the time to really look at it, you can begin to realize just how much there is to see. I mean, people brush Roadside Attraction off as a horrible episode for its plot, yet fail to realize the beauty of what it was inspired by, and paid homage to. It, like the show, was a celebration of the Pacific Northwest, its people, culture, and the many tourist traps there that, like the Mystery Shack, may seem silly at first, but have a really lovely charm to them. Mystery Tour was a means by the crew to gain a better understanding of that area, and I feel that it really shows in how Season 2 plays out. You get a better sense of the region in those later episodes than you do in the early ones. I've spoken to people who are from the Pacific Northwest, and they tell me often how accurate Gravity Falls is in showcasing that area of the world. And that's why I love finding and talking about these lesser known stories. Yeah, Mystery Tour's Bill Hunt was not as big or as well known as Cipher Hunt, but this tour did heavily influence the show and in turn, was one of the first times that the fandom really came together for something that was bigger than just the 22 minutes of each episode. It's nice to talk about current events that we know about, but sometimes it's also fun to look back on the past and see where it all started. It goes to show, sometimes you have to look deeper and beyond the show's boundaries to find the most interesting stories. And I hope new fans will continue to keep these stories from Gravity Falls past alive, as this is a relic of when it was still new, when we didn't know yet what it would become. Sometimes the best way to find these stories out is to just get online and start searching, just like those lucky fans did as they raced to the Pacific Northwest to find the Bill Cipher statue in 2016, or when the last of the bills was found that same year from tweets Alex Hirsch made while on a road trip one spring, many years ago. This has been a DatGFN production, and thank you for watching.